All of these investments that we've made recently, we've made some really terrific investments, and largely my only regret is that we didn't invest more. Because these are really special companies, and they're part of our ecosystem, building out the AI infrastructure for the world. And AI is several things. AI is energy, AI is chips, the models, and the applications. And so you could see Nvidia, and you could look at me working across that entire stack of ecosystems around the world.
That was Nvidia's CEO Jensen Huang on Squawk Box yesterday with Becky, speaking about the company's investments. And we are now joined by an AI startup backed by that chip maker, Reflection's co-founder and CEO, Misha Laskin. Misha, it's an open source model that launched out of stealth mode this past spring. And this morning they're announcing they've raised $2 billion in a Series B funding round. Congratulations to you. We've been talking all morning, or maybe all week, or even the last couple of weeks, about a lot of these deals and the money that's coming in, and oftentimes some of the money that's coming in from players like Nvidia. How did this happen?
Well, I think that where Reflection and Nvidia are aligned is that we want to see a thriving AI ecosystem out there. We want to see anyone have access to intelligence to be able to build on it, not just a concentration of a small handful of companies that are able to determine the path of AI. And so to enable this thriving ecosystem, we've assembled an incredible team, mostly from companies like DeepMind, OpenAI, that contributed breakthroughs like Gemini and AlphaGo, and are building an open intelligence that any developer, research institution, or enterprise can build on.
Okay, so one of the things we've been talking, though, a lot about is the idea that these are circular deals, meaning I imagine you need processing power, a lot of it, right? You need access to NVIDIA chips, is that?
That is correct.
That is correct. Yeah. That costs money typically.
Yes.
Okay, and so one of the things that's happening right now is companies like NVIDIA effectively are financing you so that you can then go spend your cash, or basically their cash, to buy or have access to their chips. What do you think of that?
Well, I think we're seeing unprecedented revenue growth from both the foundation model makers and the companies that are building on top of them. Now, of course, to enter the game, you need some minimum amount of capital to train these things at all. And so that's why you're kind of seeing these large fundraisers happen. But ultimately, the rate of growth in this technology is something unprecedented. It's because you're not just providing software anymore, you are providing intelligence as a service. And I think that the world is kind of reacting to that, and there's probably a very large overhang of capabilities where we're probably underestimating the impact and size of what's about to happen here.
When does the margin piece start to come into play? Because right now, you're right, the growth may be fabulous, but the margins are not.
I think that if you wanted to optimize for margins today at the inference layer, you could already do that. There are plenty of startups that are just doing inference that have good margins. The inference part, I think you can really optimize and get good margins on. However, you need to continue investing in training of these models to get the next generation of models that are more and more capable. And so I think that's where you're seeing kind of all of this expense going.
Explain to the audience, just who don't know Reflection, what you do as it relates to all these other models.
Yeah, so what we're doing, our mission, is to build a frontier open intelligence. What do we mean by that? Today, intelligence in the States is primarily sequestered into a handful of companies that are closed, meaning they control the intelligence, they give you its outputs, but you can't interrogate it, you don't have the weights that you can look at, own. And so we are building an open intelligence. And really a lot of this is, there are good open intelligence companies out there, but none of them...
Is open intelligence the same thing as open source?
They're close. They're very closely related.
Right.
The big difference is that open source used to be cheap because it just required a community of developers to build it. But open intelligence, someone still has to brunt the cost of training these models. So they are open. You are incentivizing a broad open source ecosystem. But you also have to build a large commercial business on it because it takes so much capital to train these models.
So when you look at the other frontier models, though, and you look at where you stand today, do you say to yourself, I can catch up and I can beat all of these guys? I'm going to do something that's so very different than what these guys are doing, it doesn't matter? What's the path?
It's a really good question. So The reason for our existence is we are living through a modern-day Sputnik moment. When DeepSeek was launched in December 2024, it was a massive wake-up call to the US. And ever since, we have fallen significantly behind on the open weight frontier. And so our reason to exist is to really bring the open weight frontier back to the US and export this technology to the entire world rather than importing it. So we are really, when you think about what we're competing against today, it's the incredible open models that are coming from China. And of course, over the long term,
well, my understanding is the open models are basically stolen models, right? A lot of what we kept hearing about DeepSeek was basically not that it was its own brilliant model, but that it was a brilliant stolen model. Is that true?
Well, I think we have to give credit where it's due. There's some incredible engineering and research that went into those models. Now, of course, there's some questions around the data provenance of those models, which is exactly what makes enterprises and sovereign states reluctant to adopt them. Like, they don't know what data it was trained on. So we are basically a reliable, compliant provider that enterprises can depend on for open intelligence.
And ultimately for you, given your size and scale today, do you say to yourself, I'm going to be like, as I said before, you're going to be like Anthropic or OpenAI or one of these other players, or do you say, I'm going to get acquired by one of these people? I mean, if we were all sitting together around a table in a couple of years, what does this look like to you?
We are building what we believe to be the last frontier lab, the last generational company of this paradigm. OpenAI built an incredible business around consumer. Anthropic built an incredible business around cloud APIs. And we believe we're kind of moving up the Maslow's hierarchy of AI markets into large enterprise and sovereign. And we're going to build the generational enterprise company around that market through open intelligence.